There is a growing agreement that civil society, civic culture, and social capital are all important for strengthening democracy and enabling conflict resolutions. Fostering democratic governance should therefore be a good way in which civil society can contribute to economic growth. In a recent roundtable discussion on economic growth, I was privileged to express and exchange views with some top economists. Among them were Professor William Easterly, who had recently published a much-acclaimed book entitled Elusive Quest for Growth, and also Finance Secretary Margarito Tevez, former Prime Minister Cesar Virata, former NEDA Director General Felipe Medalla, Senate Chair of the Ways and Means Committee, Ralph Recto, business leader Jaime Augusto Sobel de Ayala II, Professor Alex Magno, IMF President Representative Reza Bakir, and World Country Director Joachim von Amsberg. After a long and lively discussion that evening, and given the contrasting models of economic growth in the United States and Europe on one side, and on the other that of China, Chile, Singapore, and Vietnam, we all came to the conclusion that there was no single international formula that would serve as a cure-all for rapid economic growth. For the long term, however, liberty must still stand side by side with prosperity as a durable combination for lasting economic and legal success. Regarding our Philippine experience, I contributed my own view that the peculiar facts and distinct circumstances of the Philippines make the formula liberty and prosperity still the most viable economic and judicial philosophy here. After all, during the years of martial law here, authoritarian rule was proven to be incapable of producing meaningful long-term economic progress. Even more important, our people value their freedoms very dearly and will not exchange them for food. They may endure occasional hunger, but they will never tolerate injustice and indignity for long. Indeed, the imperatives of achieving economic growth within a democratic system have recently influenced multilateral and bilateral donor agencies to direct their support programs towards the establishment of more accountable and rule-based institutions. This redirection is intended to facilitate and enhance access to justice by the poor. In turn, greater access to justice should pave the way for better economic development. The United Nations Development Program, for instance, has been actively engaged in building and enhancing the capability of the courts, the prosecution, and law enforcement arms of the government, as well as legal support groups. The UNDP seeks to achieve these goals by supporting the following. 1. The development, institutionalization, and implementation of policies and mechanisms to address the problems of the poor, especially among the women, to gain greater access to justice. 2. Critical justice agencies, so they may increase their awareness of and enhance their capacities for respecting, protecting, and fulfilling the rights of the citizens, particularly the poor and disadvantaged, through programs such as free legal assistance, education, and enhanced information and communication technologies. 3. Leakages and synergy among the various agencies under the 5 pillars of justice and at all levels. 4. Efforts to strengthen and expand stakeholder networks and partnerships among the government, civil society, academia, church, private sector, and media, and their initiative to advocate, review, and monitor reforms in the justice and human rights sector. To reduce human poverty in the Philippines, UNDP seeks to promote growth with equity, an objective that entails creating more wealth while closing the gap between the rich and the poor. Both the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank believe that good governance is a prerequisite to economic growth and poverty alleviation. Both of these international development institutions are passionate about enhancing the poor's access to justice and about transparency and accountability in government. These twin objectives are likewise the advocacies of both the judiciary and civil society. This commonality of interests and goals is also evident in the Asia Foundation's current programs in the Philippines, as explained earlier by Dr. Ruth, and these are to promote better governance. It supports economic growth, strengthens the rule of law, and fosters peace and development, especially in Mindanao. The Foundation believes that long-term political and social stability can be achieved by sustaining economic growth and reducing poverty. Hence, it has been helping the government, local NGOs, and the private sector to strengthen democratic institutions and create sustainable economic growth. Another focus of concern is the issue of corruption that cripples the economy. Towards this end, these developmental agencies encourage public debate, partner with government agencies such as the Department of Education, and foster a corruption-intolerant culture. More important, they pour assistance into efforts to address inefficiency in the legal system, a problem that also constrains economic growth and lessens access to justice by the citizenry. Also noteworthy is the assistance given by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, and the equivalent national aid agencies of Australia, Britain, Canada, Japan, Italy, the Netherlands, and other countries. One of the projects resisted by USAID and the Asia Foundation is called Transparency and Accountable Governance, TAG. The TAG project seeks to build civil society and private sector constituencies for a counter-corruption reform agenda aimed at economic growth and poverty reduction. Civil society has the capability to mobilize power among the nation's poor, as well as to influence the government in reforming specific anti-poor policies and practices, especially at the local levels. This remarkable capability should likewise be put to good use. Indeed, civil society has much to contribute in rousing people's consciousness through the organization and advocacy within the allowable limits. Moreover, it also has the capacity to equip the greater masses of our people with needed skills and abilities for them to rightfully claim their meaningful share of available assets and resources.